Don't know if you can hear it, but it's raining out there. It's been a beautiful day, but it is now tipping down with rain outside, and I can hear it just landing on the Perspex roof in the conservatory. That little bit of scene setting aside, I'd like to come on and just talk about two things that you might think are unrelated, but I think they are related. I want to talk about the Vera Lynn song, Bluebirds Over the White Cliffs of Dover. And in the same sort of topic, if you like, I want to talk about Charles Chaplin's ending speech from the film The Great Dictator, because I think they're supremely relevant, and I think they're important to mention now. Bit of an interest in Vera Lynn. Okay, I'm going to confess, I was born in 1958. I remember through my childhood days growing up, my father was in the army, as I've said many times. I remember my mum and dad listening to that song, Bluebirds Over, and I remember a lot of other stuff by Vera Lynn. I remember various parties my dad would have thrown, and believe me, the army sure know how to party. And I can remember Vera Lynn being on the record player. I can remember other songs like Roll Out the Barrel, yep, and a bit of drinking going on, and everybody having a really good time. And I do mean a good time. And I was young at the time, but I remember those as good times. So, let's start with Vera. God bless her. Dame Vera Lynn. I respect that woman. Always will. Lovely lady. But why the importance in Bluebirds Over the White Cliffs of Dover? I had thought about singing it, but I'm not going to, so you're getting off easy. Okay? That song talks about, at the beginning, I'll never forget the people I met, braving those angry skies. I remember well as the shadows fell, the lights of hope in their eyes. And though I'm far away, I still can hear them say, thumbs up, for when the dawn comes up, there'll be bluebirds over the white cliffs of Dover. Tomorrow, just you wait and see. Might sound a bit wistful, but I'm waiting for tomorrow. I'm waiting to see. I'm waiting for that dawn coming up. And maybe, just maybe, you might see some hope in my eyes. Think, though, about the people she's referring to. I imagine they're probably the Hurricane and Spitfire pilots. The hope that she saw in their eyes was probably also tempered with fear. In some cases, despair, and in other cases, fright. But resolve, I believe. Remember this as well. That song is hoping towards the end and the defeat of fascism. It sees, in another stanza in the song, fascism as unnatural. She talks about, and Jimmy will go to sleep in his own little room again. There's a whole verse about that, and it's something like, the shepherd will tend his sheep, the valley will bloom again, and Jimmy will go to sleep in his own little room again. Yeah, sure. It's flowery imagery, isn't it? It's imagery that you could have just drawn from the English countryside. You can almost not see the white cliffs and think about that song. It goes through my head every time I see the white cliffs. Yep. But think about Jimmy in his little room, the shepherd and his sheep, the valley blooming again. What I think that song says is fascism is unnatural. It's mechanical, unnatural, greedy, vicious, wrong. It is somehow obscene because it is unnatural. Think about the obscenity of greed. Maybe you can't relate it directly to fascism, but think about that obscenity, that unnaturalness. think about the obscenity, the evil that the Conservatives have allowed when disabled people have been declared fit for work and have died within days. Think about all those people and all that evil obscenity that has been allowed in terms of greed, for the benefit of the rich, while the poor suffer. The next song that's not so much song, the speech I mentioned is from The Great Dictator by Charles Chaplin. A fantastic film, and I think somewhere I probably even put together a video on the speech where I probably recited it. It's being mentioned by quite a few people, and some politicians have had a go at slightly adapting it as well. But again, that speech at the end, which kind of ends with him coming out of the mask of pretending to be the great dictator, and he says, "I don't want to rule anybody. I should rather help everybody." Think about that. He doesn't want to rule. The little man, Charlie, the little man with the moustache, the little guy who I believe was born poor on the streets of London, who was born with nothing, yeah? He says, "I don't want to be like that." He says in that, "I would rather men profit by each other's happiness than live by each other's misery." He warns at the end of that speech, he warns about the dictators who will diet you, drill you, tell you what to do, tell you what to think, tell you what to eat, tell you where to be. And he says, do not give yourselves to these men. And he uses a beautiful phrase. He says, do not give yourselves to these men. Machine men. And then that list of things beginning with D. Yeah? Machine men. Have you seen the machine men in the Tory party? Have you seen them? Have you seen them barking out their orders? Have you seen them making people march to their tune? Have you seen them sanctioning people for no reason? Have you seen them driving people to suicide? Have you seen them causing children to eat from food banks? Have you seen them demonising the sick, the unemployed, the poor? Have you seen them when they're pretending to be strong and stable? The Nazi phrase again. Stark und stabil. Strong and stable, taken directly from the Nazi Party's speech, Hitler's speech, 1926. I'd like you to think about Charles Chaplin and the hope that is expressed in that Vera Lyng song. I'm starting to believe maybe the dawn is coming up for all of us. I don't know. I'm very cautious. I'm afraid to hope too much, because if I hope too much and it doesn't happen, I'll be destroyed. And what's more, very soon I'll be physically destroyed as well. Please, my friends, take it from me. Plans to dismantle the NHS are real. The Naylor report tells us about NHS property services already organised, already had £10 billion pumped into it, so that all of the NHS buildings and capital assets can be categorised, put in one place, and then sold off to billionaires like Branson. My friends, that isn't what our forebears fought for. That isn't the democracy that those people, maybe even those Spitfire and Hurricane pilots in World War II, gave their ultimate gave their lives to defend. They didn't seek to defend a country that treats its sick and its poor and its elderly and its disabled and its young like the Tories do. They didn't fight a war for that. Your relatives, my relatives, your parents and grandparents fought for a land fit for heroes. Let's try and rebuild that land. Let's do it by voting Labour. Thank you for watching.